Hello and welcome to the Pre-Chiro podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, and today we have the pleasure of connecting with a professional chiropractor, Dr. Courtney Gowin. Courtney, can you get us started by just introducing yourself and reflecting back on that moment when you decided you wanted to become a chiropractor?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good intro question. Hey everybody, I'm actually in California right now, but I practice in Dallas. And I would probably say I never had my first adjustment until I was a sophomore in college. And I was a D1 athlete. I'll never forget this day. I did a jump stop. We were about to go play Texas Tech, and the whole left side of my body went completely numb and I could not play. They rushed me directly into the orthopedic surgeon. They did an MRI and they said, Courtney, we think your basketball career is over. You have spinal stenosis. You have all these things going on within your spine that we see with like people 60 years plus. And I was like, what? And I was 17 at the time. And I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I like lost my identity within that. And then one good friend of mine, she goes, Courtney, you need to go see my chiropractor. He'll change your life. And I was like, okay, I will do anything. I don't want to do surgery. I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to do anything like that. And so I went and I saw this chiropractor, and all I knew, I didn't know anything about it, but I knew that whenever he adjusted me, I could play. In the weeks that I didn't get adjusted, I could not play. And so I feel like God sowed that seed in my heart. And long story short, I was able to go into Abilene Christian. I transferred over. They had a pre-chiropractic program, and I was like, man, that changed my life. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And so I always say, like, we know as chiropractors who say this profession chooses you. And so I think like through that pain, through like the loss of just a lot of identity and things like that, it redeemed me so much as it came in. And it saved my life, it saved my career. And yeah, so I think that was probably the first time I had that experience. And I feel like it came very authentic when I speak to people because I've had so much healing through chiropractic on my own.
If you could just reflect back, because you said they had a pre-chiropractic program, but to me that just means they were making it clear what the prerequisites for going to chiropractic school were. They weren't actually introducing you to chiropractic and encouraging you to go have experiences. So can you kind of just unpack what it was like for you to go to chiropractic school with maybe just that one chiropractor having helped you, and then you go to chiropractic school? Maybe what was that transition like going into chiropractic school? What were some surprises? Just what was that experience like for you?
It was really interesting. I think I'm the type of person, once I get interested in something, I study it relentlessly. Like the human body, as chiropractors, like we're never going to get bored of the human body. And so I was like that with chiropractic. I had been teaching yoga for a while, and I was really captivated by healing from the inside out and being able to use natural means and natural medicine and things like that. And I was like, man, this really resonates with me. And so as I started that journey of the pre-chiropractic program, got into chiropractic school, found amazing mentors like Autumn and Arno and all these people, I was just like, I feel like it was so like my soul lit on fire because it was so, we talk about this with our patients is chiropractic makes sense. You just have to uncover the truth. And I feel like a blindfold had been lifted from my eyes, and I saw the truth of what life was, what healing was, of like everything that I knew innately within me. But it just took one person, one experience to show me what that was. And so it's like a beautiful journey, and I'm still learning and still applying the principles of life and living of chiropractic.
So chiropractic is obviously very wide, expansive, very diverse. Can you talk about what you gravitated towards and is in terms of like what you became really passionate about? Maybe that changed over time. Maybe talk about what your initial interests were and how that shifted and what you eventually ended up becoming like an expert in or just becoming extremely experienced in.
It's super interesting because you think you have your life planned out. You think you have, oh, I'm going to do this. Like I was a college athlete, and so I was like, oh, I'm going to be a sports chiropractor. I'm going to be on like the sideline of all these like NBA teams and stuff like that. And then as I went through school, I started to realize, and I started shadowing chiropractors, getting into the field and seeing different practices. And I'll never forget the day I walked into a practice and there were babies running everywhere. There were people hugging. There were pregnant women sitting on the couch sharing their birth stories. and like people were laughing. They were there to be healthy. And I was like, what is this place? This is like Disneyland. And so I like shadowed for a few hours and I just knew it. I was like, this is a life. Like this is what you get to do every day. Like it is the best energy. It's so fun. It's so vibrant. And I like after that, I was just like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like there was no turning back. Like the energy of a pregnant woman, the changes that we see unfolding with adjusting kids right out of the womb. I was hooked. And so that's been like my life mission, like my calling was through that.
Can you go deep into like what the trainings were that you went through, the different mentors you had and what they showed you, the different maybe approaches that you had to explore, maybe different resources that you engaged with, like in this process of becoming a pregnancy pediatric specialist, shall we say, or a family chiropractor?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had great mentors. Autumn was a great mentor of mine. Jeannie Ohm, like I just kind of followed her everywhere she went and studied and saw like her passion transformed my life. Like the way that she spoke about pregnancy and birth and things like that. Like I remembered those things during my own births. And then walking through vitalistic pregnancy myself, having 3 home births, going throughout pregnancy and experiencing it firsthand, that only gave me clarity in my communication. And then I had 3 chiropractic pregnancies. I was able to experience and practice what I preach, and that came from a very authentic space of mine. And so for me, like whenever I want to share something with somebody, I don't read it in a book, and I either have a conversation or I want the experience myself. And so it's like life taught me what I needed to. Obviously, I'm still studying and learning and things like that, but the amount of life that I was given and been blessed to live, that gave me so much experience to share with my patients. And so that was hands down best education.
Can you talk a little bit more about your personal experiences in life, having been pregnant and having been already gone through and learned about chiropractic and living the chiropractic lifestyle of getting adjusted, and maybe just talk about how that's different, like being pregnant and how that can be completely different being pregnant in a vitalistic way versus just having no connection to chiropractic or the idea of a vitalistic lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once we start to realize that women are powerful and that's why God put us on this earth is to bring life into this world, I think you start to take on this new mentality of you are strong, you are powerful, and instead of the fear mentality. I remember my first pregnancy when I got that test back, I was like, oh, holy shit. Like I was terrified, like my first pregnancy, and I had no idea what to do, where to go. Like, but I did have the vitalistic principles like in my soul. Like I knew that like healing came from within. And then that started the train of like, okay, birth came from within. And so I started studying and reading a lot of Ina May Gaskin stuff and a lot of just like powerful birth stories and surrounding myself with people that they have had those natural births and things like that, because what's hidden from us, it's birth and death. And so the more we're exposed to those, the more the things become normal. And so I was attending births. I would go to births for my patients and all these things where I started to normalize birth while I was pregnant, even though I've worked in prenatal for a couple years during my first pregnancy. It wasn't until I started to live and breathe in that pregnancy and prenatal model of empowering myself instead of going into the fear-based model of, hey, this is how you should birth, and like the outside in. So it was a great transition.
Amazing. And you mentioned Autumn and you mentioned Jeannie. Can you touch on a little bit of what your relationship was with them, and maybe some things you learned from them, or what types of mentors they were for you?
Yes, they were definitely people. I was very shy, believe it or not, like going through chiropractic school. And I would sit on Autumn's floor every Wednesday for 3 hours for 3 years, and literally just like kind of sat in the corner and just, but hearing her wisdom and hearing like the principles and then the deep self work that we did. Like we went through healing childhood trauma, we went through healing ourselves and tapping into what we want and gaining clarity and healing ourselves before we could be the facilitators of healing for other people. Jeannie, I would just travel to her seminars and just kind of sit in the back and just like learn and know. And like, I just like absorbed her energy and like took that in. And then just, that's why I'm so passionate about helping students and mentoring students, is because, man, like that changed the trajectory of my career. Like, I don't think I'd be in practice if I didn't have those mentors in the beginning. Like, it was just,
Mhm.
it completely changed the trajectory for me.
How did you create that structure of 3 hours every Wednesday being at the same person's office? Did you make that request, or did it just
Mm.
naturally happen that way? Was it something that you just
It's
had some
what she did. Yeah, so she opened, she had been doing it like a few years before, like I got into chiropractic school. And then I was honestly, I was walking through campus one day and I had like a flower in my hair. And this guy came up, he was like, "Hey, I don't know you, but I think you need to be in Autumn's group." And I was like, "What's Autumn's group?" And so he invited me and I came. And she just opened up her office every Wednesday to students. And like she like had a sitter, and like it was just, looking back on it now, I don't know if I could do it, because that was such like a true commitment, but her commitment was to chiropractic and making good chiropractors. So I'm forever grateful for her.
Mm, mm. And now, just fast forward, you're in practice. Can you maybe reflect on what the experience has been like in practice? Obviously, you've been in practice for a while now. How has it changed? How has it evolved?
Yeah,
Um, touch on that.
it's been the most beautiful, wild journey. So I started my practice I signed the lease to my practice while I was still in school. I hadn't even taken my boards, but I just was so convicted. Failure was not an option. And so I had my LLC, I signed my lease before I even graduated. And then as I rolled into graduation, I had like that 2 to 3 month of like dead space before you get your license in the mail. And so I spent that time, I had $6,000, and I was leasing, and I bought a table, I bought software. I like dumpster dove for furniture, like bare like 25-cent water coolers. I had no money. And so literally did everything from scratch. And then just kind of started on a whim, knew nothing about business. And then 2 years into practice, I was subleasing a basement in this like beautiful Victorian home. And 2 years in, the landlord, she came up, she was like, "Hey, we're moving. You either get kicked out and get a new landlord, or you take over this 3,000 square foot building." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know. Like, that's crazy. Like what I was making in practice was probably not going to cover that overhead and like pay for a living." So I was like, "Okay, let me pray about this." And so I went home, and I kid you not, that night I woke up in the middle of the night and I had the vision of the nest, and I saw the logo, I saw the concept, I saw the vision. And so the next day I went up to her, I said, "All right, I'll take it." And you know, when people ask you your superpower, mine is hustle and connection. And so I went and I hustled as many like connections and like talking and like sharing this vision with people. And within 4 weeks, I had built a prenatal wellness center. And so under our roof right now, we have 3 prenatal chiropractors, 4 prenatal massage therapists, pelvic floor PT, acupuncture, a spa, functional nutrition, speech therapy, and we're about to bring in a holistic pediatrician. And it's just been this like wild ride of being able to bring in collaborative care. But that was like, you kind of got thrown into the fire, and I was like, "All right, here we go, sink or swim, get an idea and run with it." And so I got that idea, did everything myself. Like, it's been a wild ride.
And
So it's
would
been
you
fun.
agree that it's been such a beautiful experience because it came from within?
Oh
Like,
my
you
God,
talked about
it
praying,
came
you
from
talked
within.
about looking within,
Yes,
and each
yes,
step of the
yes.
way you were asking yourself. You weren't like relying on
No,
anyone else for the answers. Wow.
no, it was an
So,
internal, innate led vision.
So can you talk about the training of you now bringing pediatric chiropractors or prenatal chiropractors, excuse me, into the fold? Like, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
If you were bringing somebody in, what are some of the basic skills that you would hope that they have, and if they don't have, that you'll help them develop
Mm-hmm.
further? Obviously, it never stops. You're
Yeah,
constantly growing and learning, but can you touch on some of the skill
always
sets?
learning. Yeah. So I actually just got involved with the Parker CBI program, and so I get student interns every 3 months now, and I love them to be Webster certified, but at the same time, like that's a protocol, like the inspiration is there, but once you get your hands on a pregnant woman, there's so many nuances of care like when a baby's breech, or when a baby is asynclitic, or if a mom has heartburn, or if there's different things like that. There's different things and protocols that we've developed over the past 10 years in our office that I try to teach and help these people learn. But also, I think it's stripping away, um, I don't want to say school, but just kind of stripping away to be able to get to that core of communication whenever you're speaking to a pregnant woman. And kind of that's the biggest thing. The first thing I kind of help when I bring people on is their communication. How are you speaking to this mother? What's her state? Are you meeting her where she's at and taking her where you want her to go? Are you inspiring? Are you loving? Are you healing? All these things. So it's definitely working communication first, but that communication gets through your clarity. So your clarity, communication, and then we get into like protocols and things like that, like Webster technique and all of that. Is that what you're asking?
It is.
I hope so.
And I'm really enjoying how you're unpacking the details. If you could just maybe keep going for a few more seconds on, you touched on communication and the details of, depending on the person's story, depending on the person's background, depending on the person's presentation, you're going to sort of pivot how you approach them and meet them where they're at, and then lead them in the direction that you want to take them. Can you talk about maybe some of, you said protocols, can you maybe unpack some of the different types of presentations that you mentioned 2 or 3, but I imagine you could probably rattle off, you know, some of the things that you've been seeing
forever.
for years.
Yeah, exactly. To go back to meet people where they're at and take them where you want to go. That's a DeMartini principle, because that's the biggest thing. I think we kind of get in there, like, especially as vitalistic chiropractors, of like, oh, like have a home birth, this and that, no epidural. And I'm like, no, you cannot talk to people like that, especially a mother who's already terrified to give birth. It's literally having empathy and meeting her where she's at and honoring her birth choices. If she wants to have a planned C-section, that's her journey and that's her birth. Love her, support her, give her the care that she needs. I think that's the biggest thing. There's already enough mom shame. There's already enough mom guilt. There's already enough trauma within birth. If we start to change the way our providers care and nurture our pregnant mothers, then that's going to change our birth culture. We're already the number, you got me on my soapbox, here we go. We're like one of the most dangerous places in the developed world to give birth. Our maternal mortality rates are actually rising, and chiropractors actually have the solution to this. If we get off our bandwagons of whatever we're doing, of shooting inside the circle and band together and realize that when we have a vitalistic solution, that's why I have pediatricians leaving the hospital to come and be a part of what we're doing. That's why we have OBGYNs leaving private practice to partner with the Nest, is because they see community in healthcare, they see community in maternal healthcare, and what they're doing is not working. And so whenever you start to give them with love, with empathy, with passion, that you know is true, that you uncover that truth, that they start to realize that they are powerful, and that is the truth of birth, of culture, of change, of shift. And when we start to nurture the mother, that's how you change the generations, because the direct impact of her health and her maternal state during her pregnancy is the fetal origins of health. And whenever we start to nurture that, we change disease outcomes in kids and into our future generation. Done. Okay, 2 protocols. So what we see a lot of, as I say, we're a protocol-based practice. So obviously Webster, it's a protocol, it's an adjusting protocol. What we see too, the common things, I always say chiropractic is not a treatment for your XYZ. It's something that facilitates the healing within your body by balancing the nervous system. And so we have very nervous system based care, but we also have that in the parameters of a protocol. So ear infections, we have the XYZ amount of times a week, but we also have the homeopathic remedies. We have the ozone treatments, we have different things like that, the dietary changes that need to change. And so we look at the patient and we look at the practice member from a holistic standpoint of, we're in such a toxic culture right now. And so if we are adjusting them but sending them out, yes, the adjustment is healing, yes, it's powerful, but if we're not changing what we're doing in between adjustments, you can have no change within that baby, within that mother. And so whenever we start to change the protocols, when we start to change the lifestyle, the nutrition, the change, that's when you start to see the true like fulfillment of natural healing, especially in birth, pregnancy, and pediatrics.
Amazing, amazing. So at this moment, 2023, how do you structure, like, a person comes to see you, you have all these different amenities, they came to you for chiropractic. Do you just basically say, hey, this is how much it would cost to just do chiropractic, but then you can add these other things on and it's kind of like a la carte, or is it a membership model, or how are people interfacing with you from like a package standpoint? Can you kind of break some of that down for us?
Hmm. Yeah, so we're all the best of the best. And so I say, as a chiropractor, all we do is adjust. And so I say we stay in our lane. We're the best at what we do of prenatal and pediatric chiropractic. And so we've also brought in the best of what other people do. So I have the best nutritionist, I have the best acupuncturist, I have the best massage, and all of them work together. We do that a la carte, and we have them as contractors as part of the Nest. And then we also have a Nest membership. So the Nest membership is there's that superpower, hustle and connection, that I've connected with all wellness-based businesses within the Nest, but also within Dallas. And so we have deals with coffee shops, yoga studios, bar studios, restaurants, manicures, pedicures, like everything. And then we have all of our services at the Nest. That's because you have to think, as a business, like, what is that mailbox money? What's that continuous revenue that you don't have to lift a finger, that pays your rent, that pays XYZ, that is an easy way to create that residual stream of income, but it also brings together your businesses and makes holistic wellness care more affordable. And so that's what we just launched last month, I guess. So I built out an app, I built out a punch card, a digital punch card, things like that, and an app where people and other businesses can actually stamp the card, and we can track and do pop-up marketing, direct access, like all sorts of stuff. So it's been fun. So it's fun to get creative within your business.
Okay, so if I'm a new graduate, just got out of chiropractic school, and I want to go and approach local coffee shops or yoga centers, different businesses that align with my vision and my philosophy, how do you approach them in a way where it's like, hey, let's work and be synergistic in our efforts to support people in our community? Like, can you kind of break down some of the details of what those conversations sound like, or how you approach them? Obviously you have a great reputation and you've been there for a long time, so they want to work with you. They see the attraction, like you're bringing people to them. But can you maybe just talk a little bit about how you create those relationships for somebody who maybe is established, such as myself, or is just getting out?
Well, it's the law of reciprocity. And so you give, you expect nothing in return, and the universe provides back. And so I think the biggest thing whenever I'm doing marketing, I never think about myself. I think, how can I build this business? How can I be an authentic consumer to that coffee shop, to that yoga studio? How can I participate and build these relationships organically, and not come in with a blazing gun and be like, hey, you want to partner? Do you want to do this? And these people are like, listen, I don't know who you are. Our coffee shop that we partner with, we have literally been going there for like 6 years. And then we finally were like, hey, like, y'all should come get adjusted. And they started getting adjusted. And then I was like, hey, we're rolling out this membership. It's a crazy idea. Do y'all want to participate? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll give everybody 20% off their order if they have the part of your membership. And it was just like, it should be easy as breathing. Like, I think whenever you start to have those conversations, it shouldn't feel forced, and you never ever do marketing with your own interest in mind. You always go in and you say, hey, how can I serve you? How can I help you? Like, live within those natural laws. Those natural laws apply to everything, and that's even business.
And then to jump back to where you were really inspired and sharing a vision for what's possible if we were able to band together as chiropractors and support mothers around the country, around the world. Can you maybe just give us a little bit of a strategic plan or marching orders as far as like, okay, you've got 20,000 chiropractors around the world who have an interest in seeing and supporting mothers in their birth process or just in the pregnancy process. Can you maybe just talk about some strategic planning or some implementation strategies of like how as a profession we can reach that tipping point?
Yeah, and I think that starts with communication. If we're all speaking the same language, people are going to understand us. So what we're doing right now, what I'm doing and my legal team, is creating the Nest. We've had it for almost 9 years. And then we're creating a structure where we can license it out. And so to be able to own a Nest and open one up, to have a prenatal vitalistic wellness center that has clear communication, clear goals, and clear community, where people can come in. We run the nest, but we also run in life together. And so we come together every month. We support each other. And there's protocols, there's systems, there's procedures on how to communicate, how to roll out these wellness plans, how to do all of these things. And then it has the capacity to spread like wildfire to be able to change and shift the maternal system.
Powerful, powerful. Wow. A pediatrician is joining the team, you said?
Yeah, he literally 2 days ago, he has been a patient for 2 years, and he's a neonatologist and also a practicing pediatrician. And we were talking to him on the table, and he was like, I literally walked away from the hospital today. And he was like kind of in tears, but he was also like kind of fired up. He was like, because they were like forcing vaccinations on these kids in the NICU and all this stuff. And I looked at him and I was like, you ready to join this? You ready to join the nest? And he was like, I am in 100%. I was like, okay, let's go. And so we're talking contracts and things like that this later today. After I get off this call, I need to reply to the email. So that, and then we've also partnered with the biggest pediatrician in Dallas, and they want to be a part of the expansion of whenever we open up around the country, etc. They have the technology they've already invested in where they can be a pediatrician in every nest that we open up. And so I'm setting and laying the groundwork of creating these relationships. It is chiropractic, but it's also caring for our mothers. And that is a full spectrum of care.
And you said you also had a pelvic floor physical therapist. Can you just touch on maybe who they are, or what they do, or how they fit into the care that you guys are providing?
It is amazing. So standard in care of Europe is you go your 6-week appointment and you meet with a pelvic floor physical therapist. Standard of care in the US is you go 6 weeks, you get a check, and then you're sent on your way. There's no referral, there's no standard of care for you to actually get a pelvic floor exam to see, hey, long-term, what is happening within your body after pregnancy and then the postpartum period directly affects how your menopause is going to be. And so that's absolutely non-existent. And so we're working on standards. But anyways, long story short, Genesis, Becky is a very good friend of mine, and she has spread like rapid wildfire in the DFW area because she has a cash pay model, and it's all pelvic floor physical therapy. That's all that they do. And whenever we start, I'm like, chiropractors and PTs need to work together, because together we have been able to see so much healing and so much support to mothers coming into their postpartum period. So they will come, they will get their adjustment, and they will go downstairs for their pelvic floor PT. And it is a beautiful, beautiful synergy, because whenever they actually heal the pelvic floor correctly, and a mother can actually, because we're not going like intravaginal, we're not doing those things as chiropractors. And so whenever we have that support for these practitioners that are genius, that's all they do is work on the pelvic floor. We have that support in our structure and function with the adjustments. You see so much healing, not even in the physical body, but the emotional body too. A mother can work out, she can run with her kids, she's not peeing herself, she's doing all these things that gives her the confidence to be a good mother and a good wife and all these things.
Wow. And you also run retreats. Where'd the inspiration come for that? I mean, you've got a lot going on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's crazy.
And then also, just as a secondary portion of that question, do you offer any training for students or chiropractors, or have you offered trainings in the past? If so, what types? Where? Do you have anything upcoming? What's up with the retreats? What do you do those for? Where's that coming from?
It's a lot of questions. So yes, I do mentoring, and then we're about to launch what's called the prenatal practice. The prenatal practice is an online mastermind group for prenatal practice practitioners to come together, get our communication, get our inspiration, learning. I've taught CEs for Parker for the past 6-7 years. I teach all across the nation. I've taught in Europe for prenatal care. So being able to mentor and teach is like a huge thing of mine. But you know how I always said that, like, from your darkest moments comes your greatest joy. I went through a divorce last year. I lost everything, and I like hit rock bottom, and I kind of fell apart. And I always, whenever I would go through hard things, I would just take myself to the ocean and I would just hop on a plane to Mexico. It's like an hour flight from us. And I would just go by myself and I would rest and I would do yoga and I would move my body and I would eat organic. And every time I came back from one of those trips, I came back a little bit stronger, a little bit more at peace, a little more healed. And so after about a year of like putting myself back together, this was just last year, and I like was completely healed, like mentally, physically, emotionally. It brought my like my drive and my connection and my manifestation to a completely different level. And so I was like, man, I think people need this. Like I think that providers need this. And I was like, well, if you own a business and you want to travel, why don't you just get your CEs and come heal like yourself and heal the healers? And so that is where the inspiration was birthed out of, is to be able to bring together people. And I launched it like at the end of COVID and people are like, you are ridiculous. I cannot believe you're launching a travel business to another country in the middle of COVID. And I was like, hey, it felt innately right. And so we did our first Tulum trip last year and it sold out. And then we did a Costa Rica trip last year and it sold out. And then I just got back from Tulum on Sunday, and that we took 29 people to Tulum. And then our Costa Rica CE trip is, we have 2 spots left of like 25. And then I'm in contract with Mykonos, Greece. And so we're going to do a CE trip to Greece. And so it's just been really fun to bring together providers from all over the country. And it's cool because our last Tulum one, we had 5 midwives, we have 6 pelvic floor physical therapists, we had 10 chiropractors, we had we had NBA players, like we had everybody on the retreats. So it's not just chiropractors. And I always say like, hey, if you are not a chiropractor and we're doing our CEs, you just get to lay by the pool or get a massage or go to the beach. And so it's just meant to be fun. It's meant to be healing, to build community, and like to take the trip and enjoy.
Thank you so much for all the passion, insights, experiences that you've
Yeah.
been able to share in this interview. Can you just really go back to the beginning? We're talking to a high school student or the college version of yourself or the high school version of yourself, just maybe helping differentiate chiropractic as a pathway for them, maybe asking them a few questions to consider to help clarify for themselves whether this is the right path to take. Is there anything that you could share for them?
I would probably say it's not easy, as most of us know, but anything worth like working hard for is worth having. Like chiropractic school is not easy, but once you graduate, it's amazing. Like owning a business and going to private practice is not easy, but you can create the most amazing, beautiful life. Like I work 2.5 days a week. I homeschool my kids. I travel 2 to 3 times a month to different countries. Like what you've been able, like chiropractic gives you a gift that no other profession gives you. And it's to tap into that innate voice within you and gives you the freedom to create any life that you desire. You just have to tap into that infinite potential. And there's no other profession really teaching you that. And then we get to work with that power with our hands. Whenever we adjust a newborn baby, when we adjust somebody, we free that energy and we allow that connection with other people. And so you have to first be connected with yourself. And then when you lay your hands on somebody, you share the message with them, you allow them the connection within themselves. There is no greater gift, monetary, physical, emotional, that you can give somebody than that. So if that is what sounds pretty cool, I would definitely say check out chiropractic.